Welcome back to Community Pulse right here on Radio 786 100.4 FM. We are into the second half of our segment on matters of social justice, which we usually do on a Wednesday afternoon. And we are listening to Sister Lila, who's unpacking for us the very provocative topic, the strength in the sweetest whisper. Of course, the discussion still centers around the life of Lady Khadijah, and progressively in the past few weeks, what Sister Lila has done for us is unpack the holistic and the whole Lady Khadijah. At this point, of course, we are at the point where a life-changing decision needs to be made. And before the break, Sister Lila was unpacking for us exactly the sort of the what one should be cognizant of, you know, when it comes to entering into a marriage or entering into any usually significant life choice.
Yeah.
But marriage, of course, is what we're focusing on now. Sort of when Lady Khadijah has to make the decision or has to sort of open up herself to the idea of potentially marrying the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam.
Yes. So we looked at the family and the friends and their involvement. We also mentioned last week that there are a lot of people currently that like to block others, even if they're married already. They like to cause trouble. So it's important to have good friends, family, high quality people in your life. So you want to you need to rely on others, because we mentioned before the break how infatuation causes you to have that mental breakdown, and therefore you need to rely on others. But then that's why you got to make sure that you have the right people. And then we learned about Khadijah AS' friend playing a great role in assisting with her final marriage. And I'm going to repeat this part because it's part of the parallel pattern, and it's going to connect us to the climax of the discussion. On the 12th of September, I was doing my usual research regarding Yusuf a.s. verses 54 to 55. Numan Ali Khan was commenting that while Egypt had a lot going for it, it didn't have trustworthy people. So the king really liked Yusuf a.s. and wanted to make him his close personal advisor because he was trustworthy. And he made a comment that, you can teach skills, you can teach a lot of things, you can, but trustworthiness and character, you either have it or you don't. And then parallel to that, on the exact same day, like almost half an hour later, I was doing my daily download content and watching a talk where he was giving regarding what to look for in a business partner. And he said, without thinking, integrity and trustworthiness. Again, skills can be taught. He continued to say that he doesn't want to convert anyone and that he wants someone on the same page already. Is that what we are looking for in marriage? And before we even get there, isn't that what we should look for in friendships? And that's where the Nafsa conversation came in. And this is especially true for finding husbands. We don't want to raise boys. We want men who are already raised, who get it, who don't need to be told what is haram and halal. They don't need to be corrected and guided, at least for the most part, because we're all human and imperfect, but like for the most part, he should know what's going on. So because sometimes women are so busy chasing after men that they don't cultivate a community of professional and personal relationships that are established on trust, honesty, integrity, that could facilitate other relationships. Then she ends with a man of a similar quality than her friends at whatever level they're on. And again, a big part of that is also her sense of self-worth. Just like an entrepreneur or someone with income-generating skills needs the mindset to cultivate the right balance of confidence. Likewise, there is an emotional and psychological resilience that comes with being able to set the right boundaries in relationships. It's worth repeating in the recap before we continue, as it does relate to the climax of the conclusion. But before we continue, I just want to ask the listener to go to the Instagram at direction_of_Khadijah and the Facebook page, the Direction of Khadijah, for more content and updates. If you can like and subscribe to the Maternalist Quartet on YouTube.
Perhaps you can just
with
repeat
all your
that
the Maternalist. It's at direction_of_Khadijah and the Direction of Khadijah on Facebook. The YouTube channel is the Maternalist Quartet. And subscribe with all your emails, not just the one you're using, but all your other emails, because when you click like and follow, then the algorithms are more likely to send the content to other people who are not listening to the radio station and who are not Muslim, but through the exposure may have the opportunity to learn more about the deen in a way that caters to their interests and meets them where they're at, without them feeling like they're having religion shoved down their throats. So people are entitled to make an informed decision. They're entitled to knowledge, but they're also entitled to space. So as much as the Maternalist Quartet caters to women sisters, it doesn't exclude brothers seeking information relevant to them, nor does it exclude other people of other dominions. But my intention is to facilitate a space that is open enough for flexible exploration, or restricted enough to channel that journey towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, inshallah. So How do I base my content, and what is the process of the research before we conclude? So I was taught at Darul Rashid that we Muslims, we generally start, if we're basing it on Quran and Sunnah, we start with Quran, we look at reliable hadith, and then we, with the majority view, then we look at ilm and urf. So ilm is knowledge, it's like DNA, and urf is observation. So for example, in the court of law, DNA would be like ilm. It's like scientific, and it can close a case, right? But urf is like character witness, and it's like circumstantial evidence. So although it's circumstantial, it's not as strong as the ilm, the scientific evidence. If there's enough of it, it can make a huge impact. So in the case of religion, often besides studying the religion itself, when we're looking for, like, for example, the archaeological evidence and historical references, we're looking for a lot of circumstantial evidence, like with psychology and observations, and there's enough of that the urf becomes heavily complementary or compatible with the deen, with the Quran and Sunnah. So we find that there's a lot of urf found in secular society of statistics and studies that complements the findings that we're finding with Quran and the Sunnah, especially the hadith relating to these situations. So getting back to the best of women, and here we are in the direction of Khadijah, where a lot of the information regarding her life and her marriage to the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ is based on hadith or reports from other people. And there are some differences in opinion, but the thing is that there's enough agreement and consistency that I'm basically taking the majority view of what everybody agrees. You understand? But I would like to go more into the Arabic at some stage, just to pick up the nuances. But for now, I'm basically basing it on the majority view. So most agree on most things, with exceptions being like, for example, her age. But either way, she was a woman of maturity and experience. Even if she was 27 or 40, and then whether she was a virgin or widowed, again, either way, she could read men and people, far from naive, and was still referred to as tahira, because she was decent regardless. Last year I said that Khadijah AS has this quality that regardless of her age, she is a legend, but people to this day are still more concerned about arguing her age. And
whether she was married or widowed.
Yeah. So, unfortunately, there's not much that I can learn from a woman's age, because I can't change my age. I can change my character, but I can't change my age. So it's just unfortunate because my writing has gone very, very small. Okay, I don't know.
Do you need a moment?
Yes, please. I don't know what's happened to my screen. So, oh my goodness, this is a nightmare. Okay, so if you can ask a question while I...
Okay, so no, absolutely agree with you, and that's what I was saying during the intro, that the idea of, and even we were speaking off-air about this, the idea of seeing Lady Khadijah. So there's many writings on her life, there's many writings with about her, but it's usually, it becomes almost stereotype, her relationship in relation to the Prophet Muhammad Sallallahu only. And so that in itself, through this discussion, we're sort of problematizing or questioning a lot of those assumptions and saying, who was this person in and of itself, in and of herself? And then even, and I mean, I would imagine, given the discussion, so even within that marriage, sort of the role that she played, and again, not just locating her as almost in a sort of a stereotypical religious way, to put it now, to put it almost loosely. So let's only speak about the fact that she was incredibly, she was trustworthy, and she was very maternal, and those range of things. No, when you speak about her as a businesswoman, when you speak about her astuteness when it comes to making decisions, sort of almost how she kept her wits about her, how measured she was.
Her intelligence, basically, her talent, her character, her heart, like all of these things that we can actually be inspired from.
And also then, just as a final point to add in, that this idea of even now on sort of on the verge of now she's been a queen without a king, and now there's potentially something, but also highlighting her own agency as a woman.
Yeah. Now we're back now. I've managed to sort of fix it. It still looks a bit weird, but I can read it now. So anyway, it's unfortunate because there's so much to learn from her, just by looking at her character. But I think people get distracted by superficial things. As a result, women don't really cultivate their inner selves, and brothers don't make better choices when choosing wives, which will impact future generations to come. And that's a big deal if you think about it. So the brothers might as well guard their gaze, because looking at a female superficially isn't going to help them in terms of making an informed decision. We're talking about making informed decisions. Man plus woman equals children, equals more grandchildren, and even more grandchildren. And so there's a whole community of people, a multitude of population growing from just one man, one woman, and the quality of the wife is going to influence that population. It's a huge ripple effect. So I think Shaitan, he distracts people with superficial nonsense that doesn't mean anything and has no bearing on the spiritual development of a nation whatsoever. So it's another one of his ploys to hold us back in terms of progress. In fact, there was actually a hadith. A man married a woman because he heard her say something very intelligent from the other side of the wall and made a decision to marry her. And then the children that they had became great leaders. There's another story, also contemporary to that time, where a man married a beautiful illiterate woman from another tribe, and then the sons didn't really, amount to anything because the wife wasn't able to, build up the children intellectually. So there's nothing we can learn from her age, because there's nothing we can do about our age, but there's a lot we can do about our intelligence, our talent, our character,
our ways
our hearts,
of being in the world,
and our relationships. There's so much we can do about that, and that is ultimately what you want to look for, because that's what you have to live with and grow old with, inshallah, if that's your goal with marriage.
And that's what's so valuable again about this discussion. It doesn't just speak about the woman's role solely in relation to another male.
Yeah.
In this case, it being this person being the prophet, yes, the greatest human being that lived, but still, there's a reason why we're unpacking Khadijah and the way in which we are, of course.
Yeah. So that's why also this society, this dunya, is very deceptive. You can be young but mature. You can be older and very vibrant.
Yes, absolutely.
You can be good looking and not very pleasant on the inside, and so on and so forth. So, this is where
the age becomes irrelevant.
I think in some stories, in some cases, it is relevant, but here, not so much. So, inshallah, next year I will go more into the Arabic and look at the dictionary and the deeper words and the meanings. But for now, since we're running out of time, I'm going to wrap up and consolidate the translations of everyone else and do a comparison as to where it's applicable for us modern day women. Because you see, the title is Strength in the Sweetest Whisper. And why I've chosen that title, you've heard the expression, I am woman, hear me rule. And what does that mean? The expression is from a 1970s pop song co-written and sung by Helen Reddy in 1972, and it has become the anthem of the feminist movement. It's become popular again, by Disney's film Cruella, because, Disney is so woke these days. It was featured on the album with the title, wait for it, the title of the album was I Don't Know How to Love Him. Interesting. That was in May 1971.
You drop all these very provocative sentences and you expect me to keep quiet.
At one of the peaks of the feminist movement, which also saw a rise of statistics where violence towards women was at its highest in some cases. America had its highest statistics of rape cases at the same time. So there seems to be this collaboration of collective injury to women, but at the same time a growing retaliation from the women's camp in response to the increasing misogynism. So you can see, like Shaitan, he plays different camps, different people against each other for a bigger breakdown. The inspiration of the song was from Reddy's growing passion for female empowerment. And before my cynicism got the better of me, I read her quote, I thought about all these strong women in my family who had gotten through the Depression and World Wars and drunken, abusive husbands, but there was nothing in music that reflected that. The only songs were I Feel Pretty. She then mentions another song and continued to say that they're not exactly empowering lyrics. I certainly never thought of myself as a songwriter, but it came down to having to do it. She also recounts being publicly sexually harassed by other male entertainers and suffering humiliation until one day she had what she described as having a supernatural inspiration. She was lying in her bed one night and the words, I am strong, I am invincible, I am woman, kept going over and over in her head. She considered it in Los Angeles, of all places, as divinely inspired. She believes that the quote, universe had given her to get that message across. She then worked with Ray Burton on the collaboration, but he had a very different account as to how it started. He said, and this is actually relevant, he said that she was hosting a series of women meetings and they were whining about their boyfriends. So he told her to jot down some lyrics and he'll make a song. Then she scribbled on a piece of paper and he wrote it in 3 hours and she liked it and they recorded it. And although he didn't think it was great, he knew it was going to have commercial appeal because of according to him, woman's lib thing bubbling and coming to the boil in the USA, and based on a hunch decided to cash in, given that it being a songwriter was not very lucrative. So later it was used in women's lib comedy and later got a lot of plays on radio, and this is where things start to climax as feminist leader Gloria Steinem's launch of Miss Magazine in the US and Clio in Australia. This song became the anthem played at galas and conventions, and it has been extremely featured, and now as part of history. It has even become part of the women's movement in South Africa, along with the other slogans like "You hit the woman, you hit the rock." But let me read the lyrics, which pretty much encompasses what resonates with modern women regardless of its origin. I am woman, hear me roar, in numbers too big to ignore, and I know too much to back and pretend, because I've heard it all before, and I've been down there on the floor. No one's ever gonna keep me down again. Oh yes, I am wise, but wisdom's born of pain. Yes, I've paid the price, but look how much I gained. If I have to say I can do anything, I'm strong, strong. I'm invincible, invincible. I am woman, and it continues along similar lines. In the book that I'm busy writing, which I'm planning to launch in 2024, inshallah, and that's why I asked everybody to subscribe to the YouTube channel with all their emails, because it'll be in the final Maternalist Quartet book, featuring most of what we discussed here on radio, plus other chapters. So this is one of the chapters where after the nikah took place. This is in the direction of Khadijah section. I decided to copy and paste it from the draft here. Khadijah's cousin, who was a Christian monk, Waraka, conducted the wedding. Muhammad, in his own shyness and lack of presumption, was about to leave his wedding after it was done and go home, to which he was kindly reminded by his wife that he was home after they were alone. She had the security tell him that she was his servant, knowing that she was talking to be a gentle and mild. She felt safe enough in his presence to completely drop her guard. This is a statement that the poor modern-day feminist can't handle in her broken heart of collective trauma accumulated. It's easier for her to thump her foot in protest and hold signboards, I am woman, I am woman, hear me roar. Shouts the frightened girl, I am your servant and I surrender, whispers with a warm hint, the mature woman fully developed in her soul and secure in herself. And then I continue to use another example of a male who was very secure in himself and let his wife, quote, have control, because sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is relinquish control. But I think we're running out of time, so it's unfortunate, because I was going to speak more about the science and psychology of that, and how basically, look, I'll say it very quickly because we are running out of time. As a revert, I remember the first time I put my face on the prayer mat. Islam is about submission, surrender, and you actually have to be strong and confident. You have to have strong enough iman. You have to have that power to do that, to submit. And as a woman in a marriage, there's that parallel. It's half your deen. There's that parallel where, again, you have to, it's a form of intimacy and submission, but you need to feel secure enough, and you need to heal well enough and be whole enough in yourself to be able to do that, because that takes a lot of courage. It's a beautiful thing for her to whisper that and to be in that subservient position, but it's something that a lot of women today genuinely feel uncomfortable with. And instead of addressing that pain and that trauma, they will mask it with a lot of shouting, which ties in with what we said before break. People shouting to, they're making a lot of noise to cover up the insecurities and the issues that they have inside.
Yeah, absolutely. Would that be your closing comments? I know there's much to
Unfortunately,
say. And you know what? I was saying to you earlier on that I find that side of it so incredibly helpful. The idea of where the neuroscience comes in. Exactly, because it makes material and it makes tangible.
Yeah.
The way in which we are in the world, the way in which we operate in the world, it shows that it's there physiologically. It's there when you make these sorts of decisions. But perhaps to not leave the gap. Perhaps we can pick up on some of those points till next week.
Yeah, so
because it feels like we didn't do justice
no,
to
definitely
the topic.
not. So next week's intro will be a slight recap, but also mentioning all the things that we missed out on in this last segment, inshallah.
Because I do think it's important to sort of hone in on the idea of the strength in the sweetest whisper. But again, shukran, Sister Lilla.
Afwan.
You've given us much food for thought. And until next week then, go well, inshallah. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
So that concludes today's segment on social justice matters. Our topic for the day was the strength in the sweetest whisper. We unpacked that with Sister Lilla Halsinger. And on that note, it also brings us to the end of today's